An executive MBA is going to bring you unrivaled opportunities for you, your career growth. Who knows? You're going to prepare to solve challenges at work and maybe even tackle some of the world's most complex issues. Perhaps you're pursuing change because you're not fully satisfied. You want to push yourself further. But for the Georgetown Executive MBA, students are highly satisfied. The program ranks in the top two US programs for student satisfaction. And my sense is that that's something that's going to come across with one of our guests, Omar Wilson. Omar is the area sales manager for expert care solutions at the medical devices and technology company Boston Scientific. Had an early career in sales and then joined Boston Scientific nearly 10 years ago. His responsibilities, markets, leadership influence have continued. He very calmly announced off air that this is the most important professional week of the year. And I asked why. It's Impact Week. I'm going to let him share because it was really, really inspiring what he has to say. Also joining us from the McDonough team, Sophia Ryan. It's lovely to welcome her. She's an admissions manager for the graduate and executive degree programs at Georgetown. Her own career testifies to a commitment to helping individuals achieve their potential through education. She's got a beautiful quote about the hope that education then translates into a benefit for everyone. That notion of service that really, I think, is a constant thread through McDonough and Georgetown. It's part of their DNA. So maybe, Sophia, we can start with you and the school. That's just a few words, my thoughts. You know it so much better. Tell us about McDonough, those values, and of course, what makes it such a special place.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the warm introduction. And we're really happy to be here. And thank you, Omar, for making the time to be here. I didn't realize how busy your week was, but we're really grateful that you're here and grateful to have you part of this, as well as having Matt's team welcome us. So I would say to begin, at Georgetown, our executive MBA program really reflects the broader mission and values of the university. And I'd say there are three things in particular that make Georgetown very distinctive. I'd say to begin with, our location in Washington, D.C. Georgetown has been in the nation's capital for over 2 centuries, right? So we're building those unrivaled relationships that benefit our students, as well as open doors for career growth. And our students also have direct access to leaders across business, government, and civil society, and people who are not only shaping industries, but also driving that global dialogue on critical issues. And that access creates a learning environment that extends far beyond the classroom and into the DC community, connecting students to conversations with real-world impact. I'd say second, our place on the physical campus of Georgetown. We are fully embedded in the Georgetown community as the McDonough School of Business, which means our EMBA students have access to all of the university resources that any other student on campus would have, from the libraries and research centers to events to clubs, and the broader academic community as well. So you're not just learning alongside business professionals, but you're also part of a multidisciplinary environment that draws from policy, from international affairs, from healthcare, from law. And that diversity of thought and expertise enriches both the classroom as well as the professional network that our students build. I'd say lastly, our values-based approach to business education, which comes from our longtime commitment to the values of the Jesuit tradition. And at Georgetown McDonough, we live these values through inspiring our faculty and staff to educate the whole person, and for our students and community to care for one another, as well as serve the common good. That's something you'll see if you're ever on Georgetown University or you're skimming through our website. You'll always see, our commitment to serving the common good. And we seek out ways to kind of embed social action projects and cases into our curriculum by providing experiential learning opportunities that impact others, as well as leveraging our expertise in business education and research to bring about positive change in our communities. So as a result, our students are really prepared to both do well and do good on a global scale.
Wow. You've given us a great backdrop, and we've got a lot to discuss to unpack all of those. You talked about so many things that you're going to see, these incredible guest speakers, that reach and influence. But just behind you, maybe this is the Brit in me, I think I see an English bulldog. Do we often see English bulldogs rolling around on the grass on the campus?
So this is our mascot. This is Jack. You'll see him on campus sometimes if you visit.
He looks pretty happy. Now, Omar, I'm going to pick up on the words that are behind you, which say, when we challenge, we advance. Here you were at Boston Scientific, an incredibly innovative and impactful company, doing really well, growing teams, those market responsibilities. But you set yourself a challenge and said, I want to go back to business school very intentionally. Tell us a little bit about that decision, and of course, how ultimately you chose the McDonough program.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I mean, ultimately it was, I spend a lot of time collaborating with the members from Boston Scientific at the C-suite level. And this was outside of the scope of my actual day-to-day job functions. It was more in a voluntary support role. So I managed, I was a global leader for an employee resource group known as the Young Professionals Network. So our second largest here at Boston Scientific, we have 10 ERGs. In this one, we have about 6,000 members that span across 23 global locations. So all the way from India, all the way to Brazil and many places in between. And as I'm connecting with our EC, our executive committee and council, and some of the executive vice presidents, including the CEO across Boston Scientific, started having these conversations that just basically naturally fell in line with, there's going to be a point where I should probably have an advanced degree, not only for the standpoint of executive presence, but understanding different things that I'm going to need to be able to do my job better, right? Really being able to look at P&L statements, really being able to understand what's behind business development, and then obviously just a broader network that comes along with that experience. And so honestly, the company Boston Scientific awards a pretty substantial award for someone every 2 years to pursue their MBA, whether it's executive, whatever type of MBA, flex, etc. And so I applied, and I was the person that Boston Scientific chose to give that award to. And, it was obviously a no-brainer for me to pursue it. When it came down to choosing Georgetown, I was choosing between a couple of great universities in different cities: Chicago, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Philadelphia, New York City, where I'm from. Ultimately, I already have a really great network in New York City and in Boston. And so I didn't really want to look at those schools. It ultimately came down between choosing between DC, Chicago, and Pennsylvania. I started doing research on flight cancellations in the winter from New York City to Chicago in the winters. And it didn't look too promising. I didn't want to do that gamble. And so I kind of put Chicago away. And then it came down to Philadelphia versus DC. And really, I chose the city that I wanted to get educated in before I chose the school. DC, with its rich history, us as students being able to be immersed in a hub of policy, international business, global decision making. For me, that was kind of a no-brainer. The diversity as a collective city that DC offers was important to me. So for me, it was, okay, I need to choose the best school to go to in Washington, DC. And then from there, Georgetown was the obvious and ultimate choice for me.
Great. Sophia, we talk about Omar wanting to do his job better. You keep him busy on the Exec MBA, right? So tell us a little bit about that structure, but also the flexibility that he would need given other commitments with Boston Scientific. So, the class that you're bringing together, how he can then personalize that with certain electives and tracks that they can choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an awesome part of the executive MBA cohort that we try to bring in is a diverse professional background that students have. Of course, you need diverse opportunities for each person to pursue the career goals they're interested in, but also the professional and personal goals that they're also interested in. So that's a great question. I'd say as an overview, our executive MBA typically enrolls about 55 to 65 people per cohort. And that size is very intentional because it's large enough to ensure diversity of perspectives and experiences, but it's also still small enough to provide individualized attention from professors and allow students to really get to know one another, which is obviously super important while you're building strong and lasting connections with your future colleagues, but your current cohort as well. And this fall, we actually welcomed our largest class ever of 68 students with about an average year of 16 years of experience, an average age of about 40. So again, huge different backgrounds that they have, but also still small enough to build those connections with one another. But when it comes to the point you brought up, customizing the experience, students have many opportunities to kind of shape the program itself. So the first year, I'd say, is more structured, where you're learning and mastering the business fundamentals through the core curriculum. Whereas the second year, students are more considering their personalized learning by choosing from 10 to 11 different electives and designing a global capstone project. And Omar, I know you'll speak to the global capstone project, but just for folks just joining that might not know what that is, the global capstone is a signature part of the program. So essentially, students either individually or in small teams design and carry out an in-country field research project that addresses real-world challenges and global strategies. So because these projects reflect student interests, they span a broad spectrum of topics, industries, and countries as well. And past projects have included things such as exploring the tech pipeline in Argentina, medical tourism and fintech in Singapore, and investigating stem cell therapies for veterans with traumatic brain injury in Colombia, Mexico, and Panama, a project that Omar was in fact a part of. So together, these elements provide space for students to dive a bit deeper into into areas that are more relevant to them, while still benefiting from that shared cohort experience. So throughout this journey, of course, our team, the faculty, program team, career advisors, are always able to provide personalized support, helping students think strategically about their choices and ensuring that the EMBA experience is really aligned with their personal and professional goals as well.
Right. Well, Omar, you're going to have to tell us more about the capstone. But before we get there, you'd studied finance as a major at undergrad. This idea of going back to school, now you're in your mid-30s or beyond. Did that feel very intentional? And then perhaps your classmates, we talk about an average 15, 16 years of professional experience. Are you learning as much from them as you are from the professors in the classroom?
Yeah, well said and great question. Absolutely, absolutely. In some cases, you learn more from your classmates and the people sitting next to you, right? Because that's where the application comes. When we are working on, to Sophia's point, like the program is intentional and rigorous, but it's not rigid. You have the ability to define the pathway that you want through electives. And also, when you come across a subject that is important to you or that helps you to kind of succeed in your career, it's naturally a progression for you to look around the classroom and understand, well, which one of you are the subject matter experts in this area from a practicing perspective. And that's where it is such just a dynamic and rewarding experience, because I can tell you, I've specifically intentionally chose electives that were going to make me better in data analytics and presentations by leveraging Tableau, for example, and understanding how to build worksheets. That is a class that Georgetown offers. And the handout from that class literally helped me to prepare for our forecast and present to executive level committees in such a rewarding way that I wouldn't have been able to do without Georgetown or some of my other classmates, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging to go back to school. I graduated many years ago from undergrad, right? And to go back to school after all of those years, it's not necessarily intimidating, but you do have to be able to navigate and traverse family obligations. From my perspective, I was commuting from New York City, so travel obligations, lodging accommodations, et cetera. But when you're doing something that is passion filled, it's so easy. When you're doing something that where you're being surrounded by such talented, smart, not only classmates, but also staff and professors, it's just even easier.
And presumably on the train back to New York, filled with things that you've been exploring, discussing in the classroom, the ability then to apply that on Monday morning, or as you say, some presentation to the executive committee, that must be very empowering.
100%, super empowering. I mean, you get a lot of work done on the train, right? When you're traveling. I'll tell you what, though, what's beautiful is, and what Sophia was talking about. I didn't mention this, but the other part of why I chose Georgetown was because of its global focus. Whereas many other schools that I were looking at only has one global travel, right, per 20 months or however long the cohort is for, and it's chosen for you. At the McDonough school, they choose the location for you. They choose the location for you the first year, and then the second year you get to choose where you go, right? The beautiful part of that is one of the professors who kind of heads up that experience, reached out to me, and he knew how passionate I was about like the global travel, but also the global capstone experience. And he said, well, this is the first year that we're doing something in Vietnam. Is there a way that you could host some of our students in Vietnam? I'm sure it would be a rewarding project for them. And so I was like, you know what, Professor Ryan, you're in luck. We have a headquartered location in Ho Chi Minh City as well as Hanoi. And on top of that, I reached out separately to the general manager of Vietnam and the executive vice president of all of APAC, and kind of ran a proposal to them for, bringing in some talented professional / academic consultants, and ran a proposal by them in terms of how they can get how they can become engaged. And it was accepted. And so I was able to host group of, after graduation, after not being in the program right anymore, I was still able to connect with Georgetown and host students and host faculty at our headquarters that I traveled to Vietnam for. So I think that's also the beautiful thing about it is if you excel in the program, but also if you show that you're invested in it, the program doesn't stop once you graduate. You have the ability to give back to the program and to stay connected to the program, to stay invested in all the collective lines that come through the program. That's important to me, but also what's important to me is that Georgetown honors that and reaches out to ensure that you can still be engaged.
So beyond bringing data analytics and other things that you learned in the classroom back to work, you literally took the classroom with you to Boston
Yeah,
Scientific in
that's right.
Vietnam. That's
That's right. That's right.
how do you top that? Now, I suppose that leads me to my next question, Sophia, because we talk about upskilling and data and AI and other skills to really stay relevant in the job market. There are other choices. We could stack short courses, follow things online, but it strikes me that all of these accomplished individuals, Omar is such a great example, have a different determination and something very intentional about going back and the executive MBA. What do you think about the program, the structure, and perhaps bringing all of these talented, diverse individuals into that classroom and learning from each other? Is that part of the power of the executive MBA?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that is, again, going back to just like the intentionality of the cohort size, is just having the students with such different backgrounds and different perspectives all coming together and, learning from one another, as Omar said, and leaning on each other. I think that's something that we really try to foster when we are creating these cohorts, is welcoming people with experience that they're willing to share with the people around them. Because, it's great if you have 20 years of experience, but if you're not willing to, share and collaborate with the folks around you, then kind of, what good is it doing everyone around you? So I think that's something that we absolutely consider when we are looking at the cohort, and something that alumni or alumnus like Omar refer back to when they graduate and go on to promote the Georgetown program, both internationally and domestically.
Do you ever sneak down the corridor and sort of peek into one of the classrooms, all these EMBA students sitting in there? What would we see? Some sort of lively discussion? I'm sure it gets pretty animated, right?
Oh, absolutely. I would say I love seeing the cohort on campus. It's great to see everybody interacting, because so often we work virtually or on the phone, but it's so great to see the cohort together and interacting. And I think that's something that with the way that the program is set up, we're really fostering these relationships and promoting growth. I know the cohort, even outside of classes, is planning happy hours, meeting up with each other on weekends if they live nearby. If they're in the DC area, sometimes people will put each other up, and it's very great to see, because again, these are all just strangers that came together with just the goal of growing professionally and personally. And it's just great to see, no matter the background that they're coming from, they are collaborating both personally and professionally. It's so great to see when they are all on campus. You walk into the classroom and it's just chatter. People are telling them everything about themselves professionally and personally. So it's really great to see them foster those relationships both in and outside of the classroom.
Right. Omar, they always say, ask a busy person to take on the new project. And already, there's work, there might be family commitments. Now you're adding studies into that mix. So alongside all of the learning, this incredibly supportive community and the connections that you're making, your reflections on that student culture and how clubs and events, you talk about DC as being an important location for the network that you were building. So beyond the classroom, presumably that also had a very powerful impact.
Absolutely. I mean, if we were to look at this like linearly, right? I mean, why an EMBA, right? Accelerate my growth as a leader, right? Why Georgetown? Academic rigor, Jesuit values. I also went to a Jesuit university for undergrad. DC was a unique opportunity, right? Cultural policy hub, made all the sense in the world. Then you get to Georgetown and you get to an executive MBA, and you think that the teachers are going to understand, the professors are going to understand that I've got a ton of work, I'm traveling, I've got tons of executive level presentations this week. Doesn't matter. They expect you to understand that the program, right, is rigorous, and that the program there's a heavy emphasis on group collaboration, heavy emphasis on classroom discussion, and they want you to be professional about it, right? And you know what? Understood. Absolutely. We didn't choose Georgetown for it to not be challenging, and so what it did was prepare me for the times in my professional career when, and there are many of these, where something gets thrown on my desk last minute and we have to figure out a solution for a customer and we just don't have the time. Georgetown and the executive MBA experience helped me to kind of build those chops and to, well, strengthen them at least, right? To ensure like I know how to partition my time and to prioritize key things to make sure that we get the job done. But, you know, to your other question about understanding, I think it's really important to understand the opportunity from a student culture and community perspective and extracurricular activities, right? So Georgetown has a very, very quick way for students to become engaged from an extracurricular level, because we have three student reps, right? There's a student rep for kind of like social engagement opportunities. There's a student rep for career development, and then there's a student rep for like marketing and admissions. That I was elected by our class to be the student rep for marketing and admissions, right? And so what that enabled me to do was to have these weekly meetings with my co-reps, the other two co-reps, but also to have weekly meetings with program faculty and administrators to understand what is it about the program that we could potentially enhance? What is it about the program that we need to develop? What are some things that we need to what are some things that we haven't even thought about yet to the program? And all of those things we acted very quickly on and brought things to the program that the program necessarily may not have even thought about a year ago, 30 years ago, right? So what is beautiful about it is that, you know, many people love helping support a world that they help build, right? And Georgetown understands that and really aligns the students to those opportunities to help build the program, help stay engaged with the program when you're gone, and help us to connect with alumni, right, from past to understand like what was it that we can continue to do to make our alumni presence stronger. So all great things. I could speak for days about Georgetown and McDonough School of Business, right, and the experience there, but the ability to be so immersed in the program, but also so immersed in the building of the program for the future students was super rewarding to me.
I love the mirror that you're describing because, of course, at an individual level, your own growth and development, but a school that is so attentive and responsive and itself wants to continue to grow and develop with the sort of input that you would then provide. Now, I mean, Sophia, keeping them busy with classes, managing that work-life study balance. They're then exploring, you know, career opportunities. Clearly, Omar's on a great track with Boston Scientific. Others might be coming to business school and then thinking, yeah, maybe I emerge from this and start my own business. So how do you then, as a program, challenge them, push them, but also support them through these, you know, major career transitions that they might be considering?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say to start with the first part of that question with the work-life balance and academics, I would say something great that we did implement about 2 years ago is we changed our program format a bit to provide a bit more flexibility for busy professionals. So the new format, it combines the flexibility of hybrid courses with maximized on-campus engagement. And so essentially what that looks like is students attend in-person classes 1 weekend per month with 1 online session, 1 Saturday per month, in addition to the 5 one-week-long signature experiences throughout the 21-month program. 2 of those global, as Omar mentioned in a previous answer. And this structure allows students to balance their professional and personal commitments and has made it possible for those who might not previously have been able to fit, you know, this rigorous executive MBA program into a schedule. This new format allows them to, you know, balance those personal obligations in order to pursue the program, which I think has been really beneficial for students. And I'd also say just our Jesuit values, they really shape how we support students personally. We believe in cura personalis. I know you said that your son was here on campus and, you know, you see that everywhere. And essentially what that means is educating and caring for the whole person. So we understand that life doesn't stop during the EMBA program. You know, it doesn't just hit pause and then start 21 months later when you graduate. Students may be growing families, managing career changes, or navigating unexpected challenges. So we really prioritize helping them balance those realities alongside their studies. With our intentionally smaller class sizes, faculty and staff are able to support students and again build those impactful relationships with the students to provide more individualized attention. And I also say lastly that the cohort model further strengthens the support as the Georgetown EMBA students form a very close and collaborative community, as we've, you know, highlighted many times on this call. It is designed so that students can lean on and support one another, whether that's dividing up work for a group project when someone has maybe a family emergency or simply just providing encouragement during demanding times has been really impactful. So I'd say the diversity of the cohort in terms of personal and professional experiences really adds a richness to these interactions and gives students multiple perspectives and approaches to draw on. I'd say that sense of shared experience makes a real difference in, the ability to balance such a busy workload, life is constantly happening, as well as the academic load. So I think that's been something that is very, very impactful. And then to kind of cater to the second half of your question, on the career side, our program really stands out through our Executive Recruiters in Residence program. It's a highly differentiated offering that gives students access to top recruiters and executive search professionals. And it's been a really great resource for a lot of our students, both during and after they've graduated. But essentially what they do is they provide tailored feedback on any job application materials that you might see. So resumes, LinkedIn profiles, anything like that. And they help facilitate a really valuable networking opportunity, which really gives our students an advantage in the job market.
Right, and those are going to be skills not just for completing the program, but for the years, decades that follow. I'm very happy that the kids also get the chance to visit the campus, because something tells me it means that your mascot bulldog gets lots of play, lots of exercise with all the kids running around. Now
real quick, you mind if I just double click on that question for 1 second? Yeah. So, when people come to get their executive MBA, right, I feel like they fall into like one of three main categories, which is I want to pivot into something else. I want to excel and advance in what I'm currently doing and gain some more executive presence in the path, or I want to pursue entrepreneurial endeavors, right? So to Sophia's point, at Georgetown, we have an incredible like career center, basically, where students have the opportunity to get their resumes developed, work with leading professionals in the fields of interest and gain feedback and insight from them. In some cases, and I've seen this in my specific cohort, you get hired by someone in your class, right? In your cohort, they're an executive and they take a liking to your work ethic and insights, and they hire you, right? What's beautiful about Georgetown, have you ever heard of the show Shark Tank?
Yes.
Yeah. So you see the bulldog behind you. So we have a contest across the university that's called Bark Tank, right? Bark Tank. And it's basically the same type of thing where you have to, you basically have the opportunity to enter your idea. And if it gets accepted, you have the opportunity to compete in a campus-wide Shark Tank or Bark Tank entrepreneurial contest. There's other contests too, like Rocket Pitch is an example of another one. I've competed while I was in my cohort, I competed one of my entrepreneurial ideas and was able to progress and win a prize in each one. And alongside that, in parallel, Georgetown has an entrepreneurial lab downtown DC with entrepreneurs in residence. So this helps you to understand like what are all the key and critical elements of being a successful entrepreneur? How do we help you to develop those skill sets, right? And then how do we help you and work alongside you to help you launch that? What that has done is I've seen someone from my specific cohort launch an incredible idea that they've had in South Africa, and it's going extremely well, right? They would not have been able to do that with Georgetown. They would not have been able to do that with the entrepreneurial lab support. And so it's another just example of our values in action, but also our curriculum in action and our network in action.
Right. That sense of outcomes and impact. And Omar, I'm sure, the time of the program, think, well, this 2 years, it's going to take off, and it rushes by. But I would like to bring us back to Impact Week. This is the important week for you professionally. Tell us a little bit about that, and perhaps how it aligns with what you've also observed at Georgetown in terms of values and outcomes and a community.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Boston Scientific is a company that I chose to work for, right? It's not a company that I wasn't just blindly sending out resumes. I did some research back many years ago on the top medical device companies in the world to work for, and Boston Scientific at that time was positioned as the number three med device or med tech firm to work for. And the reason I was doing this, I was in a heart procedure with my mom. I saw the way that the medical device sales reps were interacting with the physicians. Growing up, I wanted to be a physician. I just didn't want to have to do an additional 12 years of school. And so that nexus and intersection of medicine and business was really, I was so enthusiastic about it. That led me to networking with different people in Boston Scientific and eventually got a job and a career here. So this week is the most important week for us. It's called Everyone Makes an Impact. And it really celebrates the experience, almost like the cura personalis of Boston Scientific, all the different touch points and business functions that help us to make our products, help us to sell them, help us to support them in cases with physicians, and all the different ancillary functions and modalities that enable us to do that, from legal, from marketing, et cetera. And so what we do is we pitch these huge tents at all, and this is a global tradition, right? All of our headquarters, we do this in. We pitch like this huge tent and have like this huge outdoors auditorium where we bring patients to our campus, we bring their families to our campus, and we have panel interviews, very similar to what we're doing now, with our patients and their families to talk about how our multimodality treatment has helped them to live better lives and to enhance their overall quality. And so at Boston Scientific, we have about 8 different divisions. We have a neuromodulation division that's like electronic implantable technologies that help patients manage debilitating chronic pain and neurological conditions. We have 4 cardiology divisions, so peripheral interventions, that's like minimally invasive treatments for peripheral vascular disease. We have CRM, which is cardiac rhythm management, so that's kind of like treating irregular heart rhythms, right, and heart failure due to sudden cardiac arrest. We have electrophysiology, which is like a broad range of like mapping treatment technologies for diagnosing heart rhythm disorders. We have our new Watchman, which is just like a blockbuster of a device, which also kind of helps. It's an implantable device, right, that helps advanced procedures for cardiology. We have our interventional cardiology, right, which is again minimally invasive treatments for vascular conditions. We have endoscopy, which is minimally invasive devices for diagnosing and treatment gastrointestinal airway conditions. And then we have urology, which is like just a comprehensive view of stone removal, prostate health, women's health, erectile restoration, urinary continence, etc. So we cover a very big, broad perspective of the human body with respect to medical conditions, right? And what we do is now during this Everyone Makes an Impact week is we look at all the beautiful patient stories that we have from these devices and from some of our key strategic devices. And we bring people to discuss what it's meant for them. And we have words from physicians to really show that everyone truly makes a difference in our patients' lives. It doesn't matter if you're in marketing. It doesn't matter if you're in regulatory. It doesn't matter if you're in sales, if you're definitely, obviously, right, if you're someone who actually makes the devices. Every single person that works here has a direct impact on our ability to treat patients with these just innovative technologies. And we want to celebrate that, right? Because one of our core values is caring. And it's really important that we live through our mission and that everyone knows and everyone sees that what we're doing really makes an impact and helps patients to live better lives. So it's
and do you see that parallel with the values that we've talked about McDonough, caring as one, and tackling some of these world's big problems, whether they're health issues or others. So
Absolutely.
That's been a sort of a consistent thread of your work, but also the place that you look to go to study, right?
That's right. That's right. And when we think, to Sophia's point about how Georgetown, we're global minded and we care for the entire person, it's like it falls directly in line with our mission, right? We're a global multinational firm, right? We're commercially in about 150 countries. Almost anywhere where there's a hospital, you're going to see a Boston Scientific product there. I've had the ability now to travel globally obviously for Georgetown, but also for my organization. And it brings joy to me when I'm somewhere and they have so much respect for Georgetown, right? Like when I'm in Korea, when I'm in Japan, when I'm in Vietnam and speaking to locals and they know about Georgetown, that I take a lot of pride in that, but also in my career, when I take a lot of pride in knowing that I have done something to directly support patient care, right? And I've had the ability to do that in foreign countries. I just came back from a trip from Africa where I was supporting patient cases out there for over 60 people with esophageal cancer, right? To actually sit there and do the work, the meaningful work of advancing patient care is something that I'll never lose sight of. I'll always be grateful for it. But I also love the fact that Georgetown honors that and does things in parallel to ensure that we're honoring those traditions as well.
Yeah, and perhaps just a closing remark, Sophia, because Omar's provided a powerful reminder of this global brand of Georgetown, and not just that people are familiar with the words and the t-shirts, but what it stands for. So, viewers that are following this, the enthusiasm that you have both shared, how do they find out more? How can they connect with you and with the team? Good ways, to find out more about this culture, the values, the doors it will open, and the incredible learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just like to say briefly, thank you, Omar. You really embody Georgetown and like everything we're about. So it's so great to hear you speak, and it's always good to see you and work with you and just hear the things that you're working on, because it really is, you are, to a T what Georgetown is all about. So thank you for your insight. It's been so great to hear. And yeah, definitely, we would love to hear from students, prospective students, current students, whoever you are. We'd love to hear. And I'd say there's several great ways to, get in contact with us and learn more about the Georgetown Executive Program. For starters, we do offer a variety of events and resources. These include resume reviews, application tip sessions, and a number of different opportunities designed specifically for prospective students. We have sample classes, we have Q&A sessions with our academic director, alumni panels, and open houses. So these events really give folks a real sense of the program, our faculty, and our community, and kind of what we're all about. And this is accessible through, if you just Google Georgetown University EMBA upcoming events, you'll be able to register for the events there. Matthew, if I'm able to drop some links in the chat for folks, is that doable in the last few minutes?
Sorry, Sophia, I lost you right at the end.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, would it be okay if I drop some relevant links into the chat?
Please, we'll make sure as this goes live across Poets channels, we'll make sure that all of those links are available, because I think just from this discussion, our goal with Center Court is to make it real for people. People like Omar that were thinking, well, business school one day, is there ever a right time to do it? And I think that the energy that you bring, the passion that you bring, and an extraordinary level of insight, how you've broken down those experiences, the classroom, the support, both of you, we couldn't wish for more for this. So, if this is a first point of introduction, I mean, Omar, just a final word. Anyone that's been thinking about business school, and as you look back over the experience, what would you say to them in terms of investing in themselves and taking that next step?
That's it right there. I mean, going to business school is an investment in yourself and in your career, and it's the beautiful marriage of professional and personal interest. And a quick add on that is, so Sophia said this earlier, and I just want to make sure we honor it. For Georgetown, Georgetown allows you to choose what you want to do with respect to that second global experience. I was able to participate in 4 different global experiences, right? Georgetown brought me to Colombia. Georgetown brought me to Panama. Georgetown brought me to Nigeria. Georgetown brought me to Korea, to Vietnam, to Singapore, right? All these different places. And you really, so the project in Nigeria was an entertainment project. I'm fascinated by Nigeria's entertainment industry, from their movie production and their music production. So we collaborated, my cohort partner and I, we collaborated on a Nollywood project, but also an Afrobeats project. It's not a typical executive MBA type of project. You wouldn't think that, right? But we were able to bring our resources, our perspectives, and also what we're learning in the classroom to add something really unique to a really like an explosive industry from a growth perspective and a CAGR perspective. So Georgetown gives you that freedom to really choose, and I'm sure other programs do it as well, but I can only speak for Georgetown. Really gives you to choose your path. What are you passionate about? Okay, well, let's take the learnings that we have, let's take the learnings that your classmates have, and let's set you on a trajectory that enables you to uncover all of your curiosities, but then excel in your different areas of growth. So if you're thinking about business school, the only thing you need to really be concerned with is, where am I going? You should go, right? It's a really powerful experience that will reward you for a lifetime. And the saddest thing for me, Matt, is that I can't go to Georgetown all over again. Honestly, I would go again tomorrow. Honestly, I honestly would. And so I would say the only drawback is you will feel sad when you graduate, but you'll feel happy that you don't have 20 months of months of work behind you. But then the next year comes and you're like, man, I wish I was sitting in the classroom right now learning. But the beauty of it is Georgetown invites you back, right? And you have the ability to stay connected with your classmates. So don't think about it. You know, Nike's slogan is perfect here, right? Just do it. And really, really just the biggest thing that I could do is involve your people, involve your family in your experience. Talk about what you're going through, bring them, let them see what's going on, show them your coursework, etc. And then really, really, most people get in and they, you know, they want to get a 4.0, which they should, right? And they just want to do well, which they should. But I think a lot of people tend to lose sight of really the most important thing here are the people that you're meeting in your classes, right? And so that is, I go to school because you're going to meet some of the most incredible people you've ever met in your life. But while you're there, really value that. Really value that the people sitting next to you just have a plethora of experience, perspectives, and talents, and immerse yourself in their knowledge as much as you're going to immerse yourself in the course material.
Yeah, you've both taken us on this journey. We've been across industries, we've been across borders from Bogota to Lagos, across experiences, and no limits to any of it with what you've shared. So Georgetown brought you to all of those places. I'm really glad that they brought you back so that you could be with us for the Center Court Festival, and Sophia, for you to join us. So we will, I think you just put a link that everyone will be able, we'll make sure that website addresses, contacting the team, so that, you know, people can explore their next steps, you know, with the passion that you've shared.
And you know what I can do as well is I can put my LinkedIn in the, so you have it as well, and anyone who wants to connect with me to either learn more about Georgetown, learn about Boston Scientific, whatever it is that we do, I'm happy to talk with anyone. I'll talk about
you might get some more film producers from Nollywood that contact you too, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we were thrilled to have you at Center Court. So Sophia, Omar, enjoy the rest of this Impact Week. Great that you were with us. Thank you both very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Matt. Thank you to all the people who came to see this.